When we started the last the mosque, there is some people they doing this there was some all some players, some forms, as for like that's one of them. Remember, when we came back in country.
MashaAllah. Is this your first retreat? Okay, MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah, this is alhamdulillah, it seems you have traveled, MashaAllah, spiritually and met the teacher first of all. But just before we get there, how was the Lataif process? Maybe you haven't done for a while. How was that process?
I was in for a while, but today it's been about very as for example, Allah is like and coming in
MashaAllah, traveled and spiritually, firstly meeting the teacher and then going on the journey with them in Medina Sharif. Did you hear any azan? Did you take your own journey, or did you hear anything?
In Medina, we did the Allāh. What a lot of people
Okay, MashaAllah. So you felt you were doing tawaf?
I really did the Allāh, the soul people in the Allāh.
Okay, MashaAllah. So you see that you have, MashaAllah, traveled and experienced what we want you to achieve is to see and taste for yourself the experience as well. Like you mentioned, you heard the Tilawat. Do you remember who was actually reciting in Medina Sharif?
No.
No.
Okay. There were people sitting far left and corner. And there were many of them start when we sent out sitting in front of the starting of the
So you also mentioned about going to Makkah Sharif and seeing people doing tawaf and around. Anything else you saw in there?
No.
Okay. So obviously this is indicating really that people are doing tawaf and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawaf takes from Allah azza wa jal when he is circling or he is accumulating around the tawaf, and this shows that the person should also make that covenant, a strong covenant with Allah azza wa jal. Just seeing people itself, one is a reminder for yourself to also join this mission or this covenant and make Allah azza wa jal a center of your life as well. So the experience is indicating that, mashallah, you have traveled with the teacher, you're hearing the tilawat in Medina, you're seeing people doing tawaf in the Kaaba. This is actually indicating back to yourself that you should be part of this journey as well. Like these people in Medina, they are reciting and doing the praise of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then in Kaaba, people are doing tawaf, following the footsteps of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and making Allah Azza wa Jal as a means of their center of their world, center of their life. This is an indication that you yourself should also be part of this as well. Firstly, Medina Sharif is indicating that you should also be reciting more durood, more salam, more praise of Allah Azza wa Jal in Quran, in recitation, meaning that the amal should be present as well. One is just, maybe it has been a long time that you have not done or have. And then the seeing the scene in the Kaaba and the people doing tawaf is indicating that you should also be part of doing the tawaf as well in dunya, meaning that you should follow the footsteps of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and make Allah Azza wa Jalla as a center of your life as well now, more stronger than before. So the scene is being shown as though as a reminder from the teacher, and this should be inspiration that next time I want to also be part of this amal, meaning part of this mission of following Allah Azza wa Jalla, following the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and implementing it in my life. It's good and well seeing people in your life going Hajj, going Umrah, praying every day. You could just see people praying in the mosque, but you never join. We lose out, you lose out. But the amal is when you put action yourself, then you benefit. Seeing others doing it, alhamdulillah, this is a reminder for us. One is that the adhan goes, what does that mean? Is that come towards salah, come towards success. Adhan is there, it's calling us every day. But if we just listen but not respond, the whole point is to respond to the call, respond to the prayers, respond to the azan, respond to the tawaf, meaning respond to these things and implement our intention. So this is the indication that you should be more strong on these amal and actually join the mission and excel in your progress, inshallah. Jazakallah.
So where we go? While we do this, there are some things before it. I'm going to get to experience the out of body experience, sadly. But whilst we was doing the second phase, the part before we actually ascend, Allah's name is above your head and seeing color and community. When I breathe in with my nose, whatever color it was, I would see that color. And when I would exhale with my mouth, then the color would slowly deepen and deepen until it's black. That's the darkness in my body. And I also noticed that I was blinking a lot, and when I say blinking, I mean like the third eye is lightly, the third eye is partially, so blinking is silent. So I concentrated from a half closed eye to a light closed eye, if that makes any sense. And whilst we were doing this, I felt sort of fear from the Creator, that we should always feel that I have never felt before. And whilst others had ascended, or who never had ascended, at one point I closed my eyes very hard, and I saw a light in the distance, like a very small light in the middle. And that's all that I can remember.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, well, what's your name? Isa, mashallah. And this is your first time? Yeah, mashallah. So, a couple of things. One is, can you talk me through, so you follow through with the lataif and imagination of the colors. At what point did you say that it was dark, or did you say that it was throughout the entire thing?
So once I breathe in with my nose,
Yeah.
the color will start to come in,
Yeah.
the color will start to form and swirl around.
Yeah.
Once I would exhale, the color would go from, let's say, light blue, and then it would turn into a black, would face into a black.
Okay.
And now once I had the breath out of me, I tried imagining it instead of breathing with my nose, and it didn't come, meaning that I don't think it was my imagination.
Okay. So regarding the light, I was saying that this was the case for all of the colors. Okay.
I don't think it happened at the beginning,
Right.
but it happened with blues, with the dark blue and the light blue.
Right. Okay.
Maybe this is my
Light blue, dark blue. Okay. Okay. Sure. So one thing to note that this process of lataif cleansing actually is related to purification. So think of it like this: a course that's been you've been taught for blocking the sins. This is like making sure that you don't have any. Imagine you take like a pipe system, say the plumbing for this room. Now, what would be better? That you make sure that tissue doesn't get thrown down the pipes, things that can get blocked, or you let anything come in and then you have to call a plumber. So that's like this process that the fear is stopping you throwing things that are going to block your system. But sometimes things get through, and sometimes things might be dropped in without your knowledge. So you still have to call the maintenance man every now and again and take out any dirt. So the lataif process is like manually removing any of the darkness that is affecting any of the lataif. Different lataif refer to different things. So the darkness that you're seeing is related to certain, for example, certain sins, or certain darkness is related to these. So this is showing that actually the purification is happening, and just like it's helping you pinpoint where that is. If that makes sense. Regarding what you said about you didn't feel an out-of-body experience. So what's being expected, it's very important we understand this, is that firstly you just follow through the first practice, at least at thought level. In the thought level, you could think and you can follow through with your imagination, right? So when it comes to the point, were you able to get to the golden breath? Yes. So were you able to then follow through and transfer the golden breath into the spiritual body? And then after that?
After that, I still felt the balance and my body was something. So
Right. Okay. So the condition at that point is not whether you feel like you're in your body or not. The condition at that point is that at the point in which you transfer the spirit in the body, you continue from that point onwards. Whether you feel like you're here, there, outside the mosque, not inside the mosque, the feeling is at this point is irrelevant. The point is that at least at the thought level, you're able to direct the spirit. Does this make sense? So that's why the two key principles that everybody should take away from this. First is at the point of transfer, everybody at that point should believe that they've transferred. The minute you question it, it stops the experience. It halts this experience. The second is that you should understand, to manage your expectation, that you're at least going to travel with the thought. Because in the spiritual world, things work a little bit differently. So the spirit follows thought. So like a laser pen, wherever you point the laser pen, the spirit can also move to that point. So similarly, in this case, at this point, you're just being taught just to practice and follow through on the process. So next time, inshallah, when you get to that point, alhamdulillah, you're able to follow through the lataif. It sounds like that. You could follow. Now, this time, when the point of golden breath, you should transfer, believe that you transferred, and then go with the flow. Go with the flow, meaning that imagine is like the spiritual experience is like water. It's being poured through. The minute that you stop it, it will stop from that point onwards. So you want to just let it go with the flow, meaning that is that something happens without out of your control. So for example, we didn't say when you come to the light blue and the dark blue Latifa, the light should turn dark. That happened by itself. So that shows that it's a spiritual experience. It's not really, what was within your control was that you're going to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and go through them individually. But we didn't mention what you see, how they'll come out, what images may come, if there's any of that. That was down to the spiritual experience. So alhamdulillah, you could say that in some ways you're successful, that you have received the spiritual experience. But now, this is why we're doing these practice sessions, so that you develop this further. Does that make sense? Like riding the bike. To the point of transfer, now we try to go with the flow. So the instructor may signpost you to places. So your responsibility is to think of that place, and then inshallah the spirit will fit. That receives from whatever source, that fills all that stuff in. So for now, just learn to, as Ustad mentions, wherever they're signposting, just go with the flow. Does that make sense? Don't try to interpret your experiences as you experience. That's the job of the instructor. You narrate what you felt or you saw, and it's for the instructor then to interpret that beyond. Does that make sense?
Can I have you please?
G.
Like that. Also, when he said that Allah's name is filling you up like a balloon,
Yeah.
I felt like I was I felt myself filling up before I leave. Like I'm about to pop or something.
Right. So for the first, because it's your first time, so when you first start a car after a long time, you have to sometimes ignite and turn the ignition a couple of times because the engine is cold. So it's like this is the first time you're activating your spiritual entities. Right? Your spirit isn't used to leaving the body in a wakeful state. Maybe in sleep when you're in dreams or subconscious, but not in this state. So now you're manually inducing that experience. So it's like you're gonna feel physical phenomena. Some people feel vibrations, some people feel irregular breathing. So these are fine. You don't need to worry about that. There's nothing wrong with that. And secondly, regarding the feeling of feeling full, alhamdulillah, that's fine as well, because these muraqabahs are very powerful because the spirit is receiving certain lights that enable it to travel for the first time. So like I said, imagine the first time it's going to feel a little bit rocky for some people, but alhamdulillah, this is good. This is showing that the process is working. We'll take maybe two more, and then we're going to inshallah launch into tomorrow.
So inshallah, there'll be another practical sessions following, but after let's have any more.
These feedback sessions are very important because it's not about always what you saw, it's also what you didn't see. So right now, we as instructors, we need to know, because it's like imagine you've been taught a language. We need to know if you can speak, because then you're not able to progress, you're not able to feed back to us. And the objective of this retreat for us is that everybody walks away with this retreat knowing how to travel in the spiritual world, without which then, you're not going to mention anything, you won't be able to progress. Right. So,
It's hard to see how the colors coming and going.
sorry, could you repeat that again?
I could see the dark blue color coming and going. That's it.
Firstly, how was the actual whole process? So start from the beginning when you began from the red, the orange, the yellow, etc.
So at the starting, that's the only time I could see patterns of blue color. As for the like for white ones, after that, we will see.
Right, okay. So after the process of the Lithaya, how about when we mentioned about creating the spiritual body and the self, did you see that?
No.
Okay, and then after transfer, did you, how was that process? Okay, and what was mentioned about when person transferred, and then we mentioned about the, visiting the teacher or meeting the teacher, and then Medina Sharif. How was that? Did you listen to this? Did you any imagery come?
I wasn't listening, but the only thing that I could see how there was a little bit of white color
Sorry?
and it's a bit of white and blue.
White and blue.
Yeah. Every now and then.
Every now and then. Right, gotcha. And what was mentioned, I know we mentioned about the process, and we went to Medina and Makkah Sharif. How was this process when we mentioning this? Is there anything that you've seen, or were you just having flashes of the dark blue and the light? Anything from there?
I followed before.
Yeah.
The access and not the
So this sometimes indicates some of the levels of purification that one needs to go through, like obviously the lithias are situated in certain parts of the organ that person needs to concentrate more. Sometimes with the mind, there may be a blockage of the mind and the processes. So it's good. We always recommend, like Ustaz Zafar has gone around with one-to-ones, and we should do one-to-ones with a mentor and go through certain, you can say, obstacles in a person's life. It could be that it becomes a blockage, that sometimes it overpowers their mind with other certain things that are happening in a person's life that it cannot focus or break out from. So this is why we also, in this retreat and all retreats, we recommend that people have one-to-ones with the trainers. So they can sit down with you and you can discuss any personal matters that is happening in a person's life, which is personal or something that they can assist with to remove these obstacles as well, inshallah. Is there anything else that you want to mention? Okay.
During my experience, I understood the question before, because I thought we had to follow exactly what you were saying. But that's not the case. So what happened is as soon as I imagine the green light, which is on the chest, to clear that area, I sort of, and you said clear your mind. After that, I just woke up somewhere else. So I was at the top of like a sandy, and I could see the guard far distance, and it was like blazing sun everywhere, and it was mostly shining on the guard. And that's all I can remember at that point. And then after that, I can't get back into that feeling of being focused, being thought.
Alhamdulillah, so this is mashallah Mubarak. This is also a spiritual experience, because we did not mention about a sandy beach or anything as such. Sometimes every person goes in their own journeys, what has been mentioned, for example, the trainers mentioned certain things so that it actually helps the weak as well, that they also need indication to help them travel with the thought level or the imaginational level. Sometimes with the spiritual level, like you have experienced, it is out of your control and the spirit attends or sees certain things. Like as mentioned, you attended and the sandy beach and seeing the Kaaba. This indicates that a person should avoid the closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning travel towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like you see, the olden time, people used to travel by foot to the Kaaba. They used to travel to, the pious, righteous, many days they used to take, and very sandy beach. And sand also indicates that sometimes the footsteps can be seen on the sand. Yeah. So you also witness it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this indicates that you should follow the path of the Prophet ﷺ in each footstep. So there is very clearly marked in this path of purification, like the teacher has mentioned and illustrated with all of these discourses. So the indication is the person should adopt this path, which we haven't really gone into as such, but the path of purification. Have you seen it before, the path, or have you know that? So this is what is indicating that a person should fully adopt this path of purification leading to the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. Then the person would ultimately reach Allah Azza wa Jal, because the Kaaba is the indication of reaching Allah Azza wa Jal and His pleasure.
Does it signify anything that didn't speak anybody else anywhere?
So the indication is to follow, like you see the footsteps is clearly marked. All you need to do is follow the instructions or the Mashayikhs who are teaching you this path, and it was as though you will follow the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. So like at the beginning we mentioned that, their experience. The seeker mentions their struggles, the seeker mentions the obstacles, because then it can be removed. So without misconception, without any, you can say misunderstanding, person can be clearly put that what they should be doing, how to get from A to B, rather than, oh, what should I do now? Who should I follow? What does that mean? It should be clear as crystal. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So any experience, what we also recommend, and it's for your own benefit, is to keep a diary, right? Keep a diary of your experiences. And we actually have a full WhatsApp group that people post their experiences, and the trainers and the teacher are in that group, and they reply to any messages or any guidances that is required. But start by writing down a day, date, and what amals you were doing, like the ascension, and what happened. Then write it. And this is for your own benefit, because you can see your own journey. And then if there's any interpretation that is given, you can also write and learn from this as well in future. And if in future you want to look at this, you can always go back as well.
Jazakallah, we'll break the session here now, so we can go straight into our next practical session, led by Ustad and hand over to Imām for this next session.
Everybody wants to stand up, yeah. Not, look. We're gonna do a Muraqabagh.